Hi, and welcome back to FedMail on this windy but warm and pleasant Friday afternoon. Shabbat Shalom to you, and what a week we've had. First of all, locally, let's talk for a moment about some of the nice things. Jewish Heritage Night on Tuesday at Polar Park. How many of us were out there? I don't know, well over 100 community members were there for it. We saw Shir Joy sing Hatikva, and we saw the Israeli flag blowing proudly in a slight rainy night. There was a little bit of drizzle, but the food was great over at Water Street Deli. Excellent job on that front. And we got to see a few of our community leadership throw out first pitches, including Mayan, our shlicha. Now the Israelis, there's always this tradition, whether it's the consul general or the deputy consul general or the summer shlichim who have all thrown out first pitches. They always tell me, this is the first time that I've held a baseball, let alone throw out a first pitch. Mayan did great though. She said she watched a few YouTube videos, so she came prepared. And that is so true to her character. Throughout the year that she's worked with us, she's always done great to prepare herself, and whatever comes her way, she's ready for it. So right now, given the situation in Israel with the flight shutdown, she hasn't been able to return, and she actually has 3 friends from Israel visiting right now, and they all have had an extended stay in the U.S., an extended stay here in Worcester. But Mayan is now going to work for a little while at our summer camp over at the JCC until she's able to head back to Israel, which has worked out great because the JCC wants to have this Israeli enrichment, and Mayan is right there to provide it. So I'm happy that that's happening. Now let's talk about what's going on in Israel and the region. Well, obviously, the news has been filled with talk of Israel's strikes, military operation against Iran, which, thank God, has been very successful to date. Most of the nuclear sites have at least had some level of neutralization or destruction. Whether it's been fully destroyed or not, I think is yet to be known. But a number of military and science leaders, nuclear science leaders, have been taken out. And Israel is feeling like the success that they've had has been really positive. There's a lot of optimism around it, although the Wall Street Journal has reported that Israel is now running low on some of its interceptors. So, of course, uses Iron Dome and the Arrow 2 system, which both are used to shoot these ballistic missiles or other rockets out of the sky at different altitudes, depending on how they're flying in. Different systems are used, but that's not the important part. The important part is that it was reported in the Wall Street Journal that the supplies are running low, so the U.S. is helping to ensure that Israel continues to have what's needed, which also begs the question, or forces me to remind you that over the course of the last year, there have been so many anti-Israel advocates who have pushed to see Israel separated from the United States. And you'll remember the ceasefire resolution at City Hall that said, we've got to stop all aid to Israel, or all military aid, which of course would have included these missile defense systems. What a mistake, what a folly that would have been. How naive to think that would actually be done in the pursuit of peace or would result in peace. Because if you look at the situation realistically, if the rockets that were being fired by Iran in the dozens or the hundreds now, these ballistic missiles, were hitting more regularly, and they have been hitting, but more regularly, let's say a larger percentage of them were hitting, there's no doubt that Israel would have to escalate the conflict. So in a sense, by having these missile defense systems, by having the United States having Israel's back, and they should, we're advocating for the United States to have Israel's back even more during this, the situation would be far graver, far more serious, and more dangerous. And so we've got to keep that in mind. Congressman McGovern had put out a statement this week saying that this isn't the United States fight. The United States should not be involved in it. And it's just interesting to contrast that with the advocacy for the support of Ukraine, which was great. We should be supporting Ukraine, and we should certainly be supporting Israel too, no doubt. So it's frustrating to see that there's inconsistency there. And there's also inconsistency with the way that it's been reported on the strike on the Israeli hospital. So Soroka Hospital, which is in Beersheba, one of the big medical institutions in Israel, was hit earlier this week, direct hit from a ballistic missile from Iran. And there was almost complete silence about it from a good percentage of the voices who have been so vocal in criticism of Israel, especially as it related or pertained to Israel and its operations around the hospitals in Gaza. And you'll remember, again, Worcester City Council meeting, October 17th, 2023, a week after the October 7th attacks. There was a resolution put forward, and Tel Hajjai and Tu Nguyen wouldn't sign on to this resolution because they said that Israel had that day attacked the Al-Shifra hospital, which turned out to be false information. It was a rocket that had fallen from one of Hamas's, or it was Hamas, or an affiliate that had launched a rocket that had hit inside the Gaza Strip, and it hit a parking lot outside of this hospital. But nevertheless, it was reported globally that Israel had hit the hospital, and that was the reason that they gave for not signing on to the resolution. And today, after the Beersheba hospital was hit, was there any condemnation of that Iran had hit the hospital? And again, all I'm asking for is consistency. If you were talking loudly about your concern about hospitals in Gaza, I think you should be talking loudly about your concern about hospitals in Israel now as they're being targeted by Iran. And I have to note also, in Gaza, the hospitals are used by Hamas as bases, as operation centers for their fight against Israel. The Beersheba Hospital is a center of research and a center of care and healing. So there's not even a way to make to say that there's an equivalence there. So it's just frustrating to me that you don't hear more condemnation of it. And the same also goes for rhetoric around a rhetoric from the anti-Israel side and talking about how important it is to turn down the heat. And we've been talking about that for 20 months, saying you've got to turn down the heat. It's becoming dangerous. And then you had the shooting in D.C. and you had the attack in Boulder. Again, we said you've got to turn down the heat. Well, it's also, playing out now that you had two members of the Minnesota legislature who were assassinated, and now it's noted, we've got to turn down the heat. Well, that's what we've been talking about for quite a long time now. So the heat should be turned down. The rhetoric does need to stop, and especially as it relates to anti-Israel propaganda and rhetoric, it's got to stop. So with that said, getting back to the actual military operation, President Trump said within the next 2 weeks, he'll make a decision on whether the U.S. will be involved in some way. Prime Minister Netanyahu says that every nuclear site within Iran can be targeted by Israel, meaning that Israel has the military capability to do it. And you've got to remember that some of these sites are buried 300 meters or 300 feet below the ground under reinforced concrete and rock. So they're not easy to get to. You need these massive ordnance penetrators, like 30-ton weapons that aren't easy to transport. So there's real complexity, and I've talked about that plenty of times. Also, there's talk of whether or not Ayatollah Khomeini should be assassinated. See how that plays out. None of us really know what truly is going on in these strategy rooms, but it's of course being talked about publicly. But lastly, look at the situation in Israel right now. Tel Aviv has been hit with direct hits. Ramat Gan has been hit. Holon, Rehovot, Beersheba. These are major Israeli population centers that are being targeted with ballistic missiles, massive bombs. And you look at the destruction, and it's pretty severe, pretty serious. And yet the Israeli spirit is resilient and strong. And I have to say, I think that a lot of it has to do with our support, and we must continue to support them through this continuing challenging time. So I wish all of our friends and family members in Israel our love and our hope for a successful operation and peace soon. Peace soon for everybody in the region, really. Peace and prosperity is good. It's a good thing. We all need to be working on it. So what's going on this week in our community? On Sunday, we have a cooking demonstration for the Young Adult Division with Sylvia. You ever had Sylvia's food? Of course you have. If you've gone to any Federation event forever, Sylvia is one of our awesome caterers. So Sunday, a Yad program, Cooking with Sylvia. There's also folk dancing now, regularly, Israeli folk dancing taking place at Beth Israel. On Thursday, the 26th, there's a Translating the Ketubah event at Torah Center. And there's a major donor event, invite only, on the 25th. I've sent out material on that. The head of the ADL New England is coming in. So major donor leadership event on Wednesday. And our new shlicha, who is in Israel right now, but should be arriving, God willing, in August, Aviv Levin from Netz Ziona, 25 years old, had worked on Birthright, and just a very charismatic young leader, eager to be in our community, and we're eager to welcome her. So she should be coming in August, God willing. So with that, want to wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom, joyful, peaceful, safe weekend, and thank you for your support of Jewish life, Central Mass around the world, and in Israel. Take care. Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.